so much. I have a topic that is so lighthearted today and I hope that when you leave here, you will be feeling lighthearted too. I asked Miss Nay if she would stay in today and that the children could hear the message just because it's so important. Rick said something important, and that was that it's the wrong season for the blues. Well, even if you do play and sing the blues, it's always joyful. And we do appreciate that. We appreciate you. But the truth is, through the Advent season, we do take it seriously. We certainly do. And this year we've talked about the subjects that we typically do during the Advent season, and from Thanksgiving leading up to New Year's Day, really, and beyond. We talk about hope and how important hope is in our lives, because if we have no hope, we are truly in a deep depression, aren't we? If we haven't hope. And we've talked about the importance of faith and keeping our faith. And every time we find ourselves falling into fear, that's an indication we need to stop, really question that, and embrace our faith again. That doesn't mean we lead lives that are foolhardy and not using our common sense. Of course we do. We use the common sense that God gave us. But we do use our faith. We depend on it. I have faith that God is my instant, constant, and abundant supply. I have faith. I have faith. And then today I was going to talk a bit about peace, just a moment about peace, and that is when we embrace peace, that means that we are able to be okay with whatever is happening in the world. Now, how many of you can say that over the last 18 months, okay, now be honest, who can say that they really have been at peace of heart and mind? Haven't had to struggle with the what ifs and the worries, and that Tina has. And I knew that about you, Tina. I knew that, and your artwork displays that totally. Totally. If you haven't seen her artwork, please go over to the fellowship hall. Look at some of the paintings that she has done. As a matter of fact, there's a beautiful new acrylic that she created in my office. You should stop by and see that. I bought it before anyone else could see it, because I knew she made that for me. But how important peace is with what's been going on in the world. And we know that the last 18 months has been difficult, hasn't it? It's been a struggle to come back to a peace of heart and mind. And not only have we had the pandemic to deal with, we've had the struggle of all the division, the divisiveness of the political climate. And to tell you the truth, it has almost been painful. Painful. So what can we do? What can we do to get beyond that? To restore our hope again, our faith. Have peace, true peace of heart and mind. And one of the things, of course, and I remind you weekly, is that we mean that when we say I have faith, we mean it. We mean that. But I'm going to talk to you today about something that may surprise you, and that's going to be joy and laughter. And just how beneficial it is to the entire body, your entire being, to smile. How many of you know that when you smile, you release chemicals, endorphins, that improve your brain function? Did you know that? And the best thing you can do when you find yourself in a grouchy mood is to do what? Smile. Make yourself smile. If you find yourself in a grouchy mood now, remind yourself, smile. It will change your attitude. I guarantee it. It is guaranteed. You cannot feel joy and pain at the same time. So no matter what you're going through, and I know a lot of you have experienced loss, maybe loss of physical abilities, maybe loss of loved ones, challenges. No matter what you're going through, remember to smile. Do you know why Jesus said you must become like a little child in order to enter the kingdom of heaven? What does that mean? Well, the kingdom of heaven, he told us. There's just been too much dogma that's been thrown out there for so many years that Jesus told us the truth. We can find the kingdom of God right here on earth. And how do we do that? By becoming joyful, like a little child. Let all this seriousness just fall away. When I was talking or thinking about what the talk would be about today, I thought of a couple of people that I've known in my lifetime. One was when we lived in Kingston, Tennessee, just a little bit west of Knoxville, and we lived on the Watts Bar Lake, and it was a beautiful, beautiful place. If you couldn't find beauty there, boy, there's something wrong with you. But we had some neighbors just around the bend, and you know how these roads around a lake meander here and there. But it was a woman that, two sisters-in-law actually, that I would walk with sometimes. I walked then the way I do now, except then I walked around the lake instead of by the sound. And we would walk together, and it was just amazing to me how cheerful the one lady was all the time. No matter what, she was cheerful. It didn't matter what was going on with her. She was cheerful. And the other one, didn't matter. That was one of the grouchiest people I have ever known. She, her heritage was interesting. Her family had immigrated from Germany in the early 50s, I believe it was. It's been a long time ago, and I'm trying to remember the details. And they were extremely pious, and they had a tradition of being only serious. And if you were godly, you were only being serious all the time, and to crack a smile was like a sin, apparently. But she wore it on her face, her entire countenance. You knew when you saw her coming. You know, it was just, she didn't know better. I would try to lighten her up sometimes by telling a joke, and it didn't work. I remember a few years ago, and sometimes my sense of humor gets me into a little trouble. We were preparing for a wedding of a friend of mine, and I said something silly just to lighten it up, and the one kind of pious lady said, "Well, I wouldn't have thought that was something you should have said here at a wedding." And I said, "Well, why not?" I was just trying to tell a little joke and lighten the place up. It allowed me to dampen my spirit for a second or two. And then I got over it and said, "Well, you know what? just like the other woman, there are just some people that don't want to laugh. And they think there's something sinful about it. And it's far, far, far from the truth. Jesus had a sense of humor. We know that. Look at that group of clowns he hung out with all the time. I mean, they were always just doing the weirdest things and saying the craziest stuff. The man had to have a sense of humor to be hanging out with them, right? And would you advance the slide, Janet, one more? We know that the Buddha had a sense of humor. I was reading about the Dalai Lama being in several different meetings, and he will do exactly what I said I just did, and that was when it gets really tense and people are being divisive and they're at each other's throats, he'll just say something funny and laugh real big until he's got everybody belly laughing. And the next thing you know, everybody's in a good mood. They've relieved themselves of some anxiety, and they're ready to move on. So there are some benefits of smiling and laughing, and I mentioned that smiling actually does release endorphins when you smile. They go directly to the brain. Lighten up your mood. They're triggered by the movements of the muscles in your face. Isn't that interesting? And it's interpreted by your brain, and then it releases chemicals, good feeling chemicals. You could walk around saying, well, I'm on drugs, that's why I'm so joyful all the time. I've got these chemicals being released to my brain. I think some people wonder that about me sometimes because I am so joyful, and maybe I do act like I'm on something. I'm not. I'm just living with a joyful spirit and the spirits of God. The spirits of God. And so those endorphins make us feel happier and less stressed. I had a family member that had gone through so many trials of loss. She had lost so many family members in painful ways when she was a child. As an adult, her husband was leaving her because he had fallen in love with someone else. She was a homemaker. She knew nothing about how to make it in the world on her own. And with all this pain and sorrow, she had allowed herself to be, and I know now what it was. See, at that time, I had never heard of the word depression. I'd never heard of a major depressive episode. I didn't know any of that. None of us did. We just knew that many times if someone was having anxiety, maybe they were having a nervous breakdown, and the next thing you know, they'd throw them in the loony bin and give them some drugs. That's the way they treated it, you know. Oh, she's just having a nervous breakdown. It's her nerves. Let's just give her some sedatives to calm her down. That's what they did. Anyway, this family member of mine that I loved so much, I didn't know what it was. I just knew that for several years she was in sorrow. Just walked around the house like she was in a trance, is the only way I can describe it. I was a young person. I didn't know what was happening. But I do remember we were having a conversation one day, and I said, I have noticed something about you, and that is that you've lost your smile. Did you know you never smile? And it caught her off guard. She said, what do you mean? Of course I smile. I said, no, you don't. No, you don't. When people or relatives visit sometime, you'll momentarily laugh with them maybe, but you don't smile. Do you know, after that, she changed, and she started smiling more. And the next thing you knew, she was herself again. Now, this had gone on for years. I'm not talking about a little episode here. So I knew a miracle right there of what a smile would do. I didn't know at that time what words to put on it, but I knew it was a miracle because I had seen it right there with my own eyes. So I know what smiling can do, and laughter and joy. It can change your life. It can change you from a curmudgeon to someone that's joyful and joyful to be around. I know I told the story sometime last year of I had read it in a Daily Word magazine of a person that is in the unity movement, but he's not a unity minister. And he told about his wife dying and how terrible that was and painful. And he said he didn't care what anybody thought of him. But about once a week, he took himself off to just ride the rides at a recreation center. Isn't that wonderful? He said some people may have thought that was irreverent, but that's okay. He said, for a day, I was able to just enjoy myself, extreme joy on the rides, and forget about my pain for a little bit. He said I could pick that up when I got home. And he said something important too. He said, my wife knew I loved her, and this is what she would have wanted for me more than anything else, would be to go on and have some joy in my life. So I hope that you will find ways to find joy in your life. Another thing that laughing does, it expands the lungs, makes you healthier. Did you know that? A practice of laughing can heal you from whatever is wrong with you. There was another story of a woman that was suffering from rheumatoid arthritis, and it was so bad. She could hardly move any part of her body. She was just absolutely racked with pain. And of course, they can give you some pretty serious drugs for that. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but boy, I've tried a few myself and got off them pretty quickly because they can cause you more problems than, it depends on what the issue is for you. So don't let me talk you into anything. I don't give drug advice, trust me. But some of the drugs can cause you a lot more problems than you had to begin with. And so a friend of hers told her to try meditation, which she did. And she said, okay, now try laughter and joy and see what that does for you. So she started reading comics. She started watching funny movies. She started watching in her life what was blocking her joy, and she removed it. And she improved like 90% just by bringing joy and laughter into her life and making her whole life routine lighter and more joyful and loving. I know that during this last 18 months, I can't remember what percentage they say that depression has increased. I don't know if across the world, but I know certainly in the United States, it was like 30% that people were suffering from depression and needing to take drugs for it. Now, I'm not saying you should get off those drugs, but if it were me, I would start supplementing those drugs with a little laughter and smiling. So that's my prescription for you. Okay? Smile more and frown less. Guaranteed to help heal you. Guaranteed. And there was another man that you've probably heard of, that Norman Cousins. He was diagnosed with an illness that was supposed to be fatal, actually. He was in the hospital. It was a spinal disease from which he was not supposed to improve. He had been under a whole lot of stress for months and years, actually, and it's probably what created the disease. And so he was in the hospital in so much pain, and there was not enough of anything they could give him to relieve the pain. Nothing they did helped him. So he finally just told his doctor, he said, I'm checking out of here, and I'm going over here to the hotel, and I'm going to rent as many funny movies as I can. And he did. He just sat for days and watched funny movies. Everything he could do to keep his mind off his body. And do you know what? He healed. Totally, completely. He healed. I've heard of that happening many, many, many times. So I guess what I would say to you today, keep your sense of humor. It's important. Jesus would have recommended it. He actually did. The Buddha recommended it. The Dalai Lama laughs. And no one thinks it's irreverent. We've become much too serious. We have. I just challenge you this week. I double challenge you to smile and laugh and bring joy back into your life, no matter what is going on, and you'll be healed. Guarantee it. Thank you for your time.